everybody. We're so excited to be joining. Hi, Ashley. I feel like you're a little bit of my doppelganger today. You've got the blue line. We both got the dark hair, big smiles. We're excited to be starting. I know. Well, welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you for this live AMN Q&A. I am super excited about today because I have a couple of actual real world travel nurses that are joining us. So right now I've got Ashley who's going to introduce herself in just a minute. And then Julian should be popping up in just a second. He'll kind of surprise us, Ashley, when he joins. I know he's working on the unit right now on assignment. So trying to get that lunch break and join us. So we'll look forward to having him in just a minute. If you've joined us before, you know that I can't start one of these things without first just thanking all of you, our incredible nurses out there, whether you travel with us or not, whether you're in a perm position, you're a travel nurse traveling with someone else, whatever that looks like. We're just so thankful for you and everything that you do every day to help support all of us. So thank you. Thank you. Like I said, I'm really excited today because we have some real world travelers, people who have been in your shoes, looking into what travel nursing looks like. What are some of the questions I should ask? So I would love to have you add all of your questions into the comments section. But before I talk anymore, Ashley, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hey, everyone. So my name is Ashley. I have been a nurse for almost 4 years now. My experience is in procedural settings. Hey, Julian.
Hi, Julian.
I've done cardiac pre-post as well as general pre-op units. And then as a travel nurse, I've done both outpatient settings as well as vaccination support. I'm currently not on an assignment right now. I'm in grad school, so I just kind of wanted to focus on that. So
I love it. And Ashley, so cool that you have taken your career through a lot of different places and are now focused in grad school. I know we have a lot of our clinicians that look to take travel assignments before. Julian, it looks like you are on assignment and joining us. You're a little bit spotty on our end, but do you want to try to introduce yourself?
I'll see if I can make sure my Wi-Fi. What about now? Is it better?
We can hear you and we can see your smiling face. So I think this is like the best frozen face I've ever seen.
All right. Well, hopefully it's not too bad.
You're good.
I'm outside at my job, but I'm on lunch. But pretty much I've been traveling for 2 years. I've been a nurse for 7 now, so it's pretty old in the game. But besides that, I just use travel nursing to kind of give me a feel of how other places are doing nursing. So I'm in California, so it's been pretty good to me so far. So just hanging out. I'm also in grad school, trying to decide what I want to do with it, but I'm technically in grad school, so I'm holding on, working with that. So
I love it. Julian's nice and busy. I know Ashley and I were just talking about the weather here in lovely Southern California. So for all of you joining us, you can see it's a beautiful day based on where Julian is sitting.
Yes, amazing today, actually.
It's an amazing day. I'm glad you're outside. We are starting to get a couple of questions in the chat, so I'm very excited about that. But you have a wealth of knowledge right here when it comes to taking travel assignments. So would love to just hear from you. We've got some heys, hellos in the chat. So hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Ask us those questions that you have. But I'll start, I guess, with my first question, and maybe I'll go to you, Ashley, first, and then I'll come over to you, Julian. But we talked a lot about first-time travelers. These are, most of our listeners have never taken an assignment before. What is your biggest piece of advice that you could give to anyone looking to take a travel assignment? Where do you think they should start?
I think people wanting to get into travel should really take a look at why they're doing it and then really just kind of hone into that and let go of any fear to kind of go all in, right? So, and what I mean by that is it's very normal to feel fear leaving a huge comfort zone. But as soon as you take that leap for yourself, you are going to open up a world of opportunities that will come your way as a travel nurse. I think stepping into travel nursing allows you to grow as a person and allows you to kind of gain a whole new level of skill set that will help you tremendously in your assignment and even beyond. So
I love that.
That's my biggest piece of advice, just really letting go of fear and allowing yourself to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it is. It's a big change and I would think a challenge to leave something that you've been really consistent with. I know, Julian, you're going to talk about this too, but just figuring out what that why is for yourself. And it might look different, right? We'll come back and talk a little bit more about that, Ashley. But Julian, what about you?
So for me, I definitely think it's your why. So the reason I started travel nursing wasn't for money, ironically. It was because I wanted freedom. And so with freedom, it just came with me wanting to take my life back, be more control, get out of the rat race, potentially. But essentially, I just wanted to be like in control of like where I live, what I experience, where I put my energy and time to. And then also, I was tired of the politics of the hospital, and so travel nursing gave me. It's not 100% foolproof, but it gives you a step back from the politics. Like you don't have to typically run charge or be on committees and all those things, which I love doing, but it was just taking a lot of toll out of me. So it gave me the opportunity to focus specifically on myself. So when I come to these different hospitals, I have to think different, or I have to use different skills that I have because I have to grow because I'm not in a place where I'm comfortable. So I was terrified, I ain't gonna lie. But, like she said, taking that leap of faith is really what pushed me. And I've grown so much. My dad was saying this morning, he was like, you changed. So I was like, oh God. But essentially, you grow when you put yourself in places that stretch you. And so for me, that's kind of what travel nursing has been for me so far. And it changes your mind too. So.
Yeah, totally. I love that, Julian. And I love that you're talking about how, first of all, I love that you talked to your dad this morning and he thinks you've changed for the better. That's like pulls at my heartstrings. I think that's awesome. But I think so much of what you're saying is really hitting the nail on the head for what travel can be, right? It's an opportunity for you to step away from potentially the politics, or maybe even if you like the hospital that you're working at, which hopefully most of us do. It's just looking at a different perspective or getting a different perspective. So that you get that wealth of knowledge and you just learn more, you have more experience, which is really cool. Ashley, would you add anything onto that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember right before I started my first travel contract, there were certain goals that I had for myself. So I wanted to become more financially independent and stable. I knew that I wanted to have more flexibility, just how Julian said, in order to not just enjoy my job, but my life in its entirety as well. Because I think work-life balance is essential to a component of just being happy and feeling well in both your like physical and mental aspects. And I think travel nursing does give you opportunities to do that, right? So you have that perfect work-life balance and you're constantly growing because you're constantly being put in situations you're not normally put in.
Yeah, I love that, Ashley. And Julian, you gave a vigorous head nod with the flexibility piece and just growing. What would
So
you add
yeah,
to that?
100%. So the reason why I say more like flexibility is because obviously as a nurse, they basically they call it emotional manipulation, where you come into work overtime. You don't want to like not extend yourself and do all these things that are great in the grand scheme, but personally might not be as fulfilling as much. And so I was used to just working. I really didn't call out. It was just rare for me to call out, or I would come in overtime, and I didn't know that over time it was chipping away at me. And so when I finally decided to pull the trigger and become a travel nurse, someone told me, you can take months off at a time. I'm like, what do you mean? Like that's never been a thing ever since I started working at 18. I've never taken off. I've never really taken like an extended vacation. You take the, weekend trip or whatever, but like an extended vacation. And the only way I saw it was travel nursing. And I was able last year to take 6 months off and just, recalibrate, kind of reevaluate everything. And then after 3 days from now, or 3 shifts from now, sorry, I'll be able to take another 2 months off, have no work the holidays. So for me, if I was staff, I wouldn't say I would be unhappy per se, but I don't think I would be able to be in the driver's seat of my life to where I can control when I take the contracts, how long it is, like where it is rather. And then also too, I think a lot of people miss, going somewhere for vacation is a small taste of what the place is. Staying there for 3 to 6 months or however long, you can actually envision yourself being there. So for me, I've been in California for a long time. I can envision myself being here, and I had more than 2 weeks to like experience it. I think that's the other secret that travel nursing gives. So that's pretty much why I like it too.
Yeah, so much with the flexibility, and you're right. That's not something that I, honestly, I can't think of any other career that affords you that kind of an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to save, 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 and then I'm going to take a certain amount of time off. Maybe it's a couple months, maybe it's just a few weeks. Maybe I really care about having the holidays off, or maybe I'll be one of those people that works the holidays and saves up all of that money and then takes the beginning of the year off. Whatever that looks like for you, you've heard both Ashley and Julian talk about that flexibility component. I think there's another side to this as well, because while travel nursing affords you flexibility in how you set your career, where you go, what you want, I think what we ask for on the other end is flexibility when you're on your assignment, right? So there's an element of give and take that happens. Julian, I know that you were talking about this a little bit when it comes to floating, for example, which is something that travel nurses do pretty regularly, I would say. So would love to hear from you on just your thoughts and some of the things you were talking about. And then Ashley, I'd love to come to you for the same kind of question on that flexibility on the other side.
Yeah, so floating, we all have to do it as travel nurses, depending on where you work. Each facility is different, so don't think just because you're a traveler, you're going to float, because you might not, or they might have stipulations on how you float. So for me, someone said to me last year on my first travel assignment, I was so nervous to float. I was just like, oh my God, I've worked in the same area, same everything, for a long time, because that's where I was. But someone said, when you float, you have an opportunity to grow. And I was like, But when I floated for a while and started going to like the CVICU and just kind of like traveling there for a long time, I'm like, you know what? I kind of like cardiac. But if I never would have floated, I don't think I would have had the opportunity to do that. And so in this assignment, I'm on a cardiac step down unit and I float ICU as well. So it's like, because I was floating, I was able to put myself in different, or not put myself, but be put in different areas. And I realized it's about my mindset a lot of the times rather than the actual art of floating. Because if I have a positive mindset, typically I can draw something from the ship. If I don't have a positive mindset, it might be a little harder to draw from the ship. But the point is, I think you get opportunities to grow without even trying to grow. And then if you're someone like me, whereas my first travel assignment and I only worked medicine for the whole time, being floated to all the different ICUs, I gained exponential experience in a year. Then I would have to go each year to get it if I was staff or some other way. And sometimes you can't even get into these units depending on where you work.
Totally.
So for me, I got lucky. I got all of them at once. So I think for me, it benefited me. And I'm thankful. Some days better than others, but I'm thankful overall.
Yeah, totally. No, and I think we should all adopt the Julian mindset as much as we can. Let's have that positive attitude going in, and it's probably going to be better for us, right, Ashley?
Of course, that's the only way to do it.
And you were commenting kind of in there, Ashley, but what are your thoughts on that kind of same topic?
Yeah, so with me, I haven't actually ever had to go to another unit per se, just because of the settings that I've been in. But for me, I have been put in situations where I've been made to go into different roles in the setting that I've been in. So whether I was vaccinating, whether I was drawing up medication, whether I was in the front or in the back or wherever I was at. So very similar, but a little bit different. But it does just force you to kind of step into new roles. You learn new things about yourself. You learn new skills. And then at the end of the day, once you find yourself in different situations, in different roles, you think, oh my gosh, I can do this, right? Like you're confident in what you're doing because you can do this. And I think just being put in those different situations allows yourself, it allows you to grow. And overall, it just makes you confident in who you are and the nurse that you are.
Yeah, totally. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the floating thing, right? It could be just a different role within a unit that you might be very comfortable with, or being asked, in some cases, to take charge, or to do something that you're obviously capable of, but maybe wouldn't normally have the opportunity to.
Exactly.
I think that's what I love hearing so much from so many travelers, is that growth opportunity looks way different than what it would in your kind of typical staff position. So if that's something that you're really looking for, travel can absolutely afford that. You have to adapt that positive mindset of, I might be floating to some place that looks a little bit different, and that might be a little nerve-wracking, but you're not going to be put into something that you wouldn't be able to handle, and you have lots of support around you. So we'll change topics a little bit. You've heard from these guys what their why is, why travel, what the benefits are. We've talked a little bit about, the flexibility on both sides. Something that comes up pretty frequently from our travelers, or that we hear, is, gosh, I'm really nervous about taking a travel assignment because with a perm job, I know what the rest of my year is going to look like. I know, what my week is going to look like. I'm not going to get canceled and be someplace entirely different part of the country without a job. So Julian, I know you had talked about this a little bit with cancellations. They are a part of travel nursing, and I don't think that's a secret or anything we want to hide. But it's how, particularly at AMN, we handle those cancellations and being aware of it on the front end. What would you throw in there, Julian?
So for me, I think, just my personal experience, the cancellation has been a blessing for me. I only been canceled once, but essentially one of the hospitals I was supposed to work out in Southern California, I was scheduled to go to the ICU. I was all excited. I was about to, move out here, and then like right before I came out here, they canceled me, and I was like, dang, I was kind of sad. I ain't gonna lie, I was bummed. But my recruiter, she's amazing. She called me and was like, look, I found this job for you. It's maybe about maybe 15 miles away from where that was. The housing I already set up was still couldn't use it and everything. And she was like, actually paying better. And so I was like, okay. And she was like, but it's step down, but you can float to the ICU. And I was like, why not? It was cardiac step down. I already got a taste of cardiac last year in the ICU. So I was like, why not? And coming here, because of that cancellation, I actually worked with some of the best nurses I've ever worked with in my life. My manager is amazing. The people are so supportive. Floating, not my favorite, but at the same time, I'm trying to, continuously work on that. But at the same time, the unit is phenomenal. And I don't think I would have been able to experience that, because what I hear about the other place was, oh, it's hard. The people are crazy, like however the people talk. But at the same time, I never experienced that because I got canceled. Now I'm here, and it's been a 10 out of 10 experience for me, really, to be honest. So I got lucky. So I think it's just obviously perspective as well. And then two, there are jobs everywhere. So if you don't have a job in the place you are, there's more likely a job available somewhere around it. You just, have to lean into your recruiter who's looking into those things and be honest with your wants and needs and, must-haves. And I was able to I didn't even look for it. She found it for me without even not asking me. But, she brought it to my attention because she knows what I want. And I was like, dang, this is perfect for me. I didn't even know I needed it. So that's pretty much my experience.
It's so great, Julian. Something that you talked about, and then Ashley would love for you to add on here, but something you talked about is just that open honesty with your recruiter. Your recruiter is really the person that's going to have your back when those things happen, right? We want to know, what are those dreams that you have? If you want to take the time off for 4 months, is that why maybe compensation is a little bit more important? Or is it just the location? Is the idea of coming to Southern California bigger than, maybe being in this one particular unit or this one particular place, just using Julian's example? So be super open and honest with all of us, because we're going to help you get to whatever it is that you have in mind for your career. Ashley, what would you add on?
Yeah, so I firmly agree with that. Your recruiter is your best friend at the end of the day. They're going to have your best interests at heart, and just being open and honest with them all the time will help you kind of get you to where you want to be. But on top of the topic of cancellation, so of course, that's something very widely known in this field, but there are some things that you can do as a travel nurse to kind of prepare yourselves for that, right? So for me, I learned after a while, because just like Julian, I've only been canceled one time. And I learned after a while to always have at least a month to 2 months of expenses already saved up, right? So for me, I found that if I always had that, I knew that if I was ever canceled, I would be okay, because then I would have the financial ability to go somewhere else, pay for housing, find a new job, right? Another thing that can help with that is just, just knowing that your recruiter will always have the best interests at heart, and they will do their best to find you the next opportunity. Just how Julian explained, he found a better opportunity after getting canceled, and that was perfect. So just kind of like, having things in mind already will help with that if it ever does happen.
Yeah, that's such great advice, Ashley. And just, I think being prepared and not
Yes.
having that additional stress. Worst case scenario, you've got some savings in the bank. But best case scenario, you've had a great conversation with your recruiter. They know what you're looking for. You're willing to be flexible. I will put that in there too. So just like Julian was flexible with unit, that kind of thing. You're willing to be flexible and go where you can. Julian, anything to add? I just saw you kind of jumping in there.
Yeah, sorry. And then just a couple other things too with being flexible. I realized on my first travel assignment when I initially got my first assignment, because I was so worried about being canceled because I was cross country. I didn't initially get housing right away. So what I did was I got housing for like a week or two, and then made sure I got through like the onboarding process, passed all the tests and everything, like the in-person tests at the job, to make sure all that stuff was solidified, and then I took the leap to get a long-term housing situation after like the first 2 weeks, just to give myself that like leeway. Because if everything happens, if you spend all this money on housing or a long-term apartment or whatever you want to do, because your plan is this, and then something happens, it is a lot of hassle on the back end. So one of the tricks to trade is just kind of like maybe get a hotel room for a week or Airbnb for 2 weeks or something, and then just give yourself that leeway. And then after it's good, then you go ahead and move. That saved me a lot of stress, But
Yes.
luckily, I've been.
I feel like that's such a good tip, Julian, and not anything that I have heard a lot of. Both of you guys are giving such great tips. But to that point too, I mean, you could be moving to someplace like Los Angeles, where Julian is at currently. There's a lot of different neighborhoods there. There's a lot of different places that you could be. And so just because you find housing that maybe fits the budget of what you're looking for in proximity, you might not like that neighborhood. And you might find that there's something a little bit further down the road that has all of the things you want for your day off. So such a great tip to one, have the savings so that you're not worried about those things, right, Ashley? And then from Julian to look at temporary housing for just maybe a week or two, which is super easy to find some of the places that we just said there, but so that you can really get an idea or a sense and make sure you're maybe not, going to get canceled, which probably won't happen. I do love that both of you have only been canceled once, which just goes to show you that you're probably really needed at the unit or whatever position you're taking. So we can kind of dispel that fear a little bit. We are getting a bunch of questions in the chat. So I think my marketing team, for all of you who are joining us from out of the country, we're very popular, everyone, for joining us out of the country who are interested in coming to the United States. We'll post some of our content in the chat here for you to reach out to our international division. And then we also have a question on just finding recruiters in your area. Jamar just said, Julian, that's a great tip. So good job. You got a couple of big thumbs up there. So finding recruiters in your area. If you haven't already, download our AMN Passport app. AMN Passport is definitely your go-to for all things related to travel nursing, obviously with us. So you can search for jobs, you can look for different locations. You'll be linked with your recruiter in the system, Geo, so you'll be able to see who that is. And Julian and Ashley, you may not know this yet, but we also have a community section on our app, so you can connect with other people in the area. Julian's excited about that. Yeah. We do have travel nurses all over the place. And I think that's another thing that comes up. Would love to hear from both of you. I know we're getting close to our time. I could probably spend 2 hours talking to you, but it can be a little nerve-wracking or scary. Maybe not for Ashley. She said she wasn't scared, but it can be scary to go someplace that's entirely new and different, that you don't have family and friends, and you're out there by yourself, even though you have your recruiter, and we at AMN have your team behind you, but we're not there with you. So Julie and Ashley, would love to hear from you. What does that like community experience feel like as you're going to someplace new? Maybe Ashley, I'll start with you, and then Julian, I see you thinking.
Yeah. So first of all, I love this question because I am the biggest social butterfly compared to many people I know, but there are some resources that travel nurses can use to kind of help with that. So of course, the AMN Passport app has a community aspect to that, so that's amazing. There's also things like MedVenture or even like Facebook groups where you can join and you can literally just be surrounded by other travel healthcare professionals in your area. You can message people, you can set up events. So just things that makes it a little bit easier to kind of meet people, talk to, like-minded people in your area. And it makes it feel a lot more comfortable once you realize like, hey, you're on assignment too. You're new here too. Perfect. Let's hang out. Right.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of little resources like that.
I love that, Ashley. Julian, what about you?
For me, I have twofold. Now, Ashley took all the answers, but but I do think I've been fortunate both ways. So I know in nursing, a lot of people say like, oh, your coworkers, they have like this, like, watch out for your coworkers. But for me personally, my coworkers have become my family over the past 2 years. So like a lot of the people that I worked with at my first assignment, I still talk to to this day. We went all over California, we went to Tahoe. Like we've done a lot of different things with my coworkers. So for me, my entry to life, saving grace, was my coworkers, because it is a little lonely, sometimes, depending on where you go and depending on if there's things to do. But luckily, also on the other fold, I did go to this assignment with a few of my friends that I was staff nurses with. So we were all staff nurses. We've still been friends, still friends now. And we all was like, let's go to LA. And everybody took an assignment in LA. I didn't take the same job as them, but we were all in proximity to each other. So I had like my core group of friends from back home all take assignment, in LA. And then third thing is I'm on TikTok. And so, I have, a little bit of community growing. And some of the people that I know from TikTok that I would talk to, some of nurse creators, I met a few of them in LA, and we've hung out a lot of times. They invited me to stuff, I invited them to stuff. And so for me, TikTok has also been, it's been nice, like meeting people that you see online, growing and doing different things, and like meeting them in real life and growing with them and like exchanging information and just being yourself. I think that's been the biggest help for me. So TikTok, bringing your friends with you, and then also letting your coworkers be your friends. Like my coworkers today, they were like, "Oh, we're going to throw a party for you. We can't believe you're going." I'm like, "Wow, I can't believe they're going to do that." So for me, it's like my coworkers have become family. So yeah.
I love that. There's a quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it goes something like, if you have friends where you are and friends where you've been, you'll have friends wherever you go. And it's really true, I think, in travel nursing, is that you can create these pockets of people that potentially are, spanning the entire country. And you have this network and this group of people who understand who you are, what your career is like. I think especially in today's day and age, where a lot of our clinicians, I'm sure you all feel this, have this element of burnout that comes into play. And it can be really stressful to constantly be surrounded with potentially hard decisions that you have to make. You're impacting real people. The things that you do impact real people and their lives and their families' lives. And I think, Julian, you were talking about the emotional toll that takes. That can be overwhelming. So I'm sure Julian and Ashley would echo this, but making sure that you're taking time for yourself. You are finding those pieces that, that do make you happy, that get you away from feeling that level of emotional toll. As good as all of you are at separating your work from your personal lives, I can imagine it's difficult at times. Julian, Ashley, would you add to that in just our last minute here?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Only thing I would say is self-care is the best care. And in addition to that, I think giving yourself grace, like realizing that you have to give yourself grace. Every day you might not be on 100, some days you might be off because you're human. And I think a lot of times we are so conditioned to just push through and plow through and just show up and just give our all no matter what. But I think learning it's been 7 years now, geez. As I get older, I realize I have to be more intentional with how I take care of me so I can take care of you. And that, for me in LA, I don't have a beach at home, so I go to the beach as much as I can. I go to the sunset, I record videos and post it online because those things make me appreciate where I am, because at home I wouldn't have that. And so I think just giving yourself the freedom to, be kind to yourself, and, your patients will be okay if you take a day off. Obviously not calling out, but take a day off, reset, leave work at work. They will be fine. Someone else will do it. Nursing is a 24/7 job, so I promise someone will take care of it. And just giving yourself the freedom to take care of you. So that's where I'm at.
I love that, Julian. Ashley, any last minute little thing here to add?
Yeah, Julian like nailed it. Self-care is the best form of self-love, right? And just like you said, it's like you have to be willing to pour into yourself before you pour into others on a constant basis. And I think for me, one of the things that truly helped every time I was on a different assignment is just sticking to those routines that make me feel well, right? So whether that was eating properly, making time for social hangouts, working out, even doing something as basic as those things really helped me kind of stay true to myself, feel grounded. And then I was okay enough to do other things and then help other people, right? So little things like that.
I love it, Ashley and Julian. I can't believe our 30 minutes has flown by. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I could stay here for another 2 hours at bare minimum. But I so appreciate both of you joining us. I know we've got to get Julian back to work to take care of his patients. And
I'm fine.
Ashley, we'll back to you've got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Any last minute sentiments from either of you? Maybe Ashley, I'll start with you first, and then Julian, go to you on travel nursing in general, on recommendations that you would give to the group, just anything that you would add, Ashley.
Yeah, some last minute things. I think being open-minded and flexible when you choose to go into this kind of career is key, because you're going to be constantly doing different things, meeting different people, learning about different policies, right? So it's just really having that open mind to learn new things, as well as just being prepared enough whenever you get to these new assignments. So with that, for me, that looks like, having those expenses already saved up. That means doing what Julian said and only getting the housing for the first week until if things are okay. That means having those 2 years of experience so your skill set will be good. Staying in contact with your recruiter, being kind to yourself when you're starting these new assignments. It's normal to not know everything, right? So give yourself grace, give yourself at least 2 weeks to kind of really settle into this new location. And then I think another thing for me that I learned as well is whenever you do sign these new contracts, making sure you're reading through the contracts and, working with your recruiter to make sure that the things that you want to happen are written in that contract. So that would be another key thing for me as well.
I love it, Ashley. Good sentiments to wrap on. Julian, what about you?
So for me, obviously being flexible is required, but I think I was a little bit on the other side. I was being intentional. So I worked at a ginormous level 1 trauma center that had all the majority of the resources that I wanted. So I didn't really want to go to like a community hospital that didn't have as much resources or, no ratios and stuff like that. So I tried to choose a hospital that was more so aligned where I was. So I didn't go to like, a rural hospital that, the people just figure it out. I wanted to go somewhere that was kind of on par with where I was, so the transition would be smoother. So for me, I was very intentional with where I picked. And thankfully I got the job, but I was intentional with where I wanted to go. And then when I got there, I let I was open enough, like you said, to be flexible and let the course take itself. And then I got more experience because now I'm at this place and they're like, okay, you are a good nurse. So we're just going to keep floating and doing whatever we have to do. And I benefit, they benefit because I'm working, but I benefit from learning. And I was able to do that. And then also knowing like where you want to live. I think that for me, like I'm in LA, not because the money was great in LA. I'm in LA because that's where I wanted to be for years since I was a kid, and I'm finally able to do it and make, decent money as that goes. And then the final thing too is if you're burned out and frustrated at your staff job, start identifying the reasons why you're burned out, because when you become a travel nurse, a lot of those things, while different, are the same. Like you still have to take a lot of that, like still dealing with people, still dealing with patients. So it doesn't just absolve because you become a travel nurse. And I think a lot of people think travel nursing is just totally different. And I think the self-work that you have to do, should do rather, no matter where you go, you bring that stuff with you, and just be more mindful of like, you might not have your comfort, your friends, your family, all these different things. And so you think about that into what's my why? Am I doing this? Is my why big enough to where I take this ginormous leap? For me, you could do local travel, but I moved across country the first time by myself. I didn't know a soul out there. It was, excruciating. But at the end of the day, I grew so much, I've learned so much, and I'm so thankful that I was able to do that leap, because now I don't want to go back and get on a hamster wheel anymore. You know, even if I did take a staff job, we would have to benefit each other. It couldn't just be I just work and hopefully get paid. You know, it would have to meet my needs, and that's because of travel nursing. So I think allowing yourself to be free, to be the best version of yourself, and allow yourself to expand. And I think that's really what travel nursing is. The ball is in your court. How you choose to dribble and shoot it is on you. And I think people don't really realize that travel nursing is a vessel, and how you drive it is up to you. So that's the biggest thing that I've learned over these past 2 years. Yeah.
I love it. Well, I feel like you've said it all between both of you. And I love the time. I love the sentiment. I love that both of you have just so much knowledge to contribute and give back to this community. I'm sure we'll get a ton of rewatches on this. And maybe our marketing team can throw Julian and Ashley's TikTok accounts here. Maybe we can grow your community too. But I so appreciate both of you joining. I could spend many more hours talking to you. We'll have to bring you back for another one. Julian, thank you for joining us on your lunch break outside the beautiful hospital you're at, giving us a little bit of taste of the outdoors.
Yeah.
And Ashley, we won't keep you too much from studying, but appreciate you being here all the way from Florida. Thank you for everything that you both do. And thank you to our amazing community. Be sure to join us next time. See ya.
Thank you guys for having me.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.